I'm delighted today to have Prakash here with me. Prakash is a SVP and Chief Information Officer at Autodesk. Thank you very much, Prakash, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, DK, for having me.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm relatively new in physical months, but in AI years, I've been many years, I guess, at Kore. I'm DK Sharma, President and Chief Operating Officer at Kore. And we thought that following up on all the two invigorating conversations that we had, Raj, followed by the presentation from Gartner, we will talk to a practitioner. So we'll talk to Prakash about the really innovative company that Autodesk is. 6 billion in revenue and growing rapidly year on year, using software and software products to dazzle their customers. I thought we'll talk to Prakash today to see how Prakash and Autodesk have been using AI. So Prakash, let me first ask a little bit of what's your background? Tell me a little bit about what Autodesk does.
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you for having me. Good conference, good start to the show, especially what Raj and Arun talked about was when we were talking during the break. It validated a lot of what we were thinking and what we were talking ahead of this conversation. And for those who don't know Autodesk, we are into the whole, our vision is to make a better world, designed and made for all. So all of you might have known or heard about AutoCAD, which is predominantly whom we reference to really introduce Autodesk, but we are beyond AutoCAD. We have more than 100 different products, becoming a platform company for different verticals in construction, manufacturing, engineering, and media and entertainment. And I've been with the company for 19 years. So in 3 days, I'll hit 19 years mark. Who's counting? No, but I've had 13 different roles, seen a lot of transformation in the company, and we are at a rapid growth stage. And I think AI and generative AI can never come at a better time than now, because we are talking about doubling our revenue, going in 3 years, getting to a $10 billion mark. It's a huge opportunity for us, and we have been leaning in and tapping into all those capabilities.
Awesome. I'm a follower of you on LinkedIn, and recently you put up a post where you said the 5 best practices for leaders, and one of the things you mentioned was adaptability, right? And you talked about AI, so would you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, AI is not new for us at Autodesk. I mean, and a lot of us, we have been also playing and leaning in and trying to leverage. And we'll focus a lot more today with the time that we have on all employee-related stuff that we are doing. If you look at it from a personal standpoint, we have things that we are doing for employees, for our partners, and for our customers. So most of the focus today, what we'll talk is more employee-centric, while we also have a lot of use cases that we are focusing on the other two. So a couple of AI use cases, again, where we started leveraging some time ago was when we talked about employee experience, findability in any big enterprises is a huge challenge. People, like new folks join, and imagine the time during the whole COVID scenario where we actually onboarded about 3,000 new employees during those 2 to 3 years period when nobody went into any office space. And somebody who is joining new, again, I've been with the company for 19 years, so I exactly know where everything is stored, under which drawer or who should ping and what happens and what not. But imagine a scenario of an employee, and a very global company in 48 different countries. So when they join, the time it takes for them to come on board and be effective and productive for what they are hired for is significant amount of time. So for us, we are trying to look at how do we make sure that when employees join, they can onboard very quickly and find what they need, like relevant. Again, all of us have, over time, created these repositories, knowledge bases, and intranet becomes like a big junkyard or your garage where you don't know what exists. But you have everything that you need, but you can never find whenever you need anything. And so that was the scenario, and that's where we started leaning in and really started tackling findability. Few years back, as I mentioned, findability score, or an ESAT we call employee satisfaction, was around 40s and 50s, where people were like, I can't find when I need something. To transform a few years later, that's where we started leveraging AI capabilities, and it was around 70s. It came up very rapidly to get to that. And fast forward, we are also starting to leverage generative AI, which we'll touch on. And now it's closer to later part of 80s and early 90s. It's fluctuating between those two. So I think, and that's what employees are expecting. It's more like consumer experiences in an enterprise landscape.
So you are one of the premium software companies. You provide superb design software for engineers. So they must be demanding a lot of you, and you demand a lot of your partners like us. And how have some of the use cases with us? You are a customer of ours. How has that worked out?
Yeah, I think, say, we use Kore as our, where we use Kore is the platform for our internal conversational AI and our chat engine for all employees. And now we have inserted that within our intranet, also our collaboration tools, like whatever employees choose to use. Like we have both Slack and Teams. So we call it Lumi. Lumi is our internal name for the chat agent that exists, where it is smart enough to understand based on the questions that come and how do we really answer back to our employees on, like, whenever they ask for it. The goal is, because there's no more patience. As I said, all employees want consumer kind of experience. When they are stuck, when they want something, they want an answer then and there, and you can't keep scaling. As you're scaling the company, you can't scale your workforce to be on standby to answer some of these questions. And so that's where I think Lumi has been very powerful. For us, it addresses close to 70% of any questions that come within our landscape is actually taken care by Lumi. And if Lumi cannot handle, she transfers them to a real live agent. And so 30% of the actual other questions are going to human workforce or human agents, help desk, who will then solve. And then we have a resource who is continuously training Lumi. So that 30%, the whole idea is how do we keep shifting so that today Lumi didn't answer this 30%, when the next time the same question comes, the whole idea is can Lumi answer that rather than a human agent. And so that's the approach we took, and it's not a one-time thing. This is a continuous thing that happens. Just like all of us needing to adapt and learn, any new thing comes. Yes. I think the same applies for Lumi too. Awesome. It has to continuously keep learning.
So when you implement something like Lumi, or implement these AI technologies that hopefully are transformative from a business practice perspective, there are inevitably challenges. There are inevitably some things that you think will pan out in a certain way, they don't turn out that way. Like Arun was talking about, try POCs, try fast, fail fast, move on to the other use case. What has been some of that experience for you?
I think Arun nailed it. I don't know where he is, but I think his presentation touched on a lot of things, best practices that we have been embarking in the last year or 18 months. And that, like piloting and POC, experimenting, leaning in and doing experimentation, and creating a center of excellence. We don't want it to be a bottleneck of one team delivering for the entire company. It's that one team or center of excellence is more like enabling function, so that people do it in a responsible way. They understand the existing framework so that we don't start duplicating work, but leveraging what others are already doing and contributing and crowdsourcing so that we can get more things and more value out. And then prioritizing use cases, understanding what business problem. Again, within a software company, it is easy for us to get distracted when we see cool stuff because everybody wants to play with cool technology. So we have a huge mindset of why don't we focus first on use case or what business problem or what outcome we want to achieve, and then look at technology. If you look at it, most of my time is spent on the business outcome we are trying to achieve and the number of users who will benefit out of it rather than actually which technology are we using. We will eventually get there, And it used to be not like that. It used to start with technology, like find a solution, now go hunt for a problem because we found some cool solution.
Right.
And I think it's reversing, which is in a positive way, that we are really focused on use cases. So when you do that, the challenges also, you can actually estimate or predict some of the risks, set the right expectation to users, what it will do, what it will not. When you create these hype cycles, that's when the problem happens. You almost set the expectation, oh, this will solve the world hunger. And then you're just answering you trained it in 10 questions and that's all it can do. That's when people get really upset.
Got it.
And they lose confidence.
Got it. You are the world's smartest engineers. I'm sure they've said they can do everything, and yet you chose a platform from Kore. So can you talk a little bit about how does that, complement the smartness that you have in the organization?
I think it's one of those things that I've also learned over time. It's being very deliberate on what you buy, what you build. For the business, again, we are scaling and growing very fast. And the expectation, people want everything now. While we can build what is provided or what exists today, is it truly worth it? Is it core a part of our IP? Especially when things are changing every hour and every day, there's no point in really putting something together or build something for the next 9 months, which may be obsolete.
Got it.
So for us, it's that concept. It's not like we don't want to build. We are very deliberate on what we are building and where we are buying and augmenting. And that's how Kore came into play.
Awesome. Sweet words to hear. I wish I could repeat them with the same type of brevity that you espoused, but thank you very much for saying that. Changing gears a little bit, looked at generative AI, right? And we talked about 20% of the people have already put it to production. I was thinking, I'll put you on the spot, and are you that 20% or are you the remaining? And on the backstage chat, we said, you are actually maybe way beyond about the 20%. You're not only generating, you're doing it, but you're also getting a lot of value already out of it. Would you like to share what has been your journey on generative AI so far?
Yeah, I think, see, again, we leaned in very early last year. I think, I would say it was, I have a teenager at home, and I get to learn all the new stuff that's going on, jargons and all of these things. So I have a filter what to consume, what not to consume. And she started talking about GPT and all of these things. I was like, okay, it's the new buzz. Then my mother, who stays in India, once started talking about, why don't you put that in GPT when she's booking? And then I was like, I called my chief of staff, okay, something is happening here. When my 70-year-old mother based in India is talking about GPT, I don't want us to be left behind. Let's pull a staff meeting together. We need to lean in. We need to start prioritizing. I think mid-spring last year, we pulled a team together and started organizing, like, let's start collecting use cases by domain, the top 2 use cases. I think we quickly moved forward from there. Very quick, like we had about 28 use cases that we prioritized based on outcomes again, real business problems. Again, that's why Arun's material resonated with me. It was not like random, some ideas. Yes, we encouraged everybody to put in ideas, but we prioritized 2 use cases by domain. When I say domain, sales, marketing, customer success, finance, developer productivity, all of those things. And then we leaned in. We started leveraging, working with different partners. Of course, the first things we rolled out, like everybody else, was the Autodesk GPT, a private OpenAI version, private instance of OpenAI instance, so that we're not training anything back to the public models. So that started. We went with GitHub Copilot, where most of the developers had that capability. And then we went with several use cases. We piloted for 2 or 3 months with certain users. And we saw the results. There was naturally, in certain cases, a lot of learnings. In certain aspects of GPT, also 3.5, and when we went, a lot of hallucinations. We upgraded to 4.0, and for certain things, we changed it. And then a lot of developers started contributing. The best thing was there were so many similar efforts that were going on, and we had to really go back to the team to say, we don't want to create similar tools. Let's contribute together and create one that we all can consume. And so several use cases are now in GA too. As an example, sales, when sales folks take calls, like I'm talking about inside sales teams or BSDRs, whatever names you guys have, when they are trying to actively making calls, all of those real time and near real time, we can get whether the sentiment of how the call went, that goes to managers, and we also have a packed concept of really understanding the calls post to see what kind of coaching and opportunities are there to upsell or cross-sell. And then for agents, we also have what called Agent Assist that we have developed and integrated within Salesforce platform. So when a customer is chatting with us, actually the generative AI solution actually prompts. While they are typing in, it starts prompting from the knowledge base. This is the specific answer from this knowledge article. It's not just giving the link of the article, it's giving the exact answer. And of course, the human in the loop now comes into play, where the agent can decide, okay, post that as a response or edit and post. So you're talking about increasing efficiency and effectiveness. For me, with generative AI, when we started with AI, it was all about efficiency increase. How do we increase efficiency for our employees? Now with generative AI, I'm thinking about both efficiency and effectiveness. Like if a salesperson or a chat support agent used to handle 2 chats effectively, now with the support of generative AI, I'm expecting them to actually handle 4 simultaneous chats with a CSAT of 93%.
Awesome.
So that's the kind of concept. And then with marketing, we also have a lot of marketing material we generate typically in English, and then we work with different localization providers to translate them. Now we have worked through Microsoft Stream concept of translating them. So now any video that gets generated or content that gets generated in English, within minutes can be actually translated in local languages. That can be actually pushed to, that content can be pushed to your local markets, and that could act as leads. Okay. Previously, which used to take weeks and months to happen. So many use cases by domain, if you look at it, we are leaning in. Right now, we have 48 use cases in pilot this year.
That's music to us, because as Raj was saying earlier, use cases and pain points are what will be the most relevant for us to figure out. So I'm going to do a demo to you later in the afternoon on what we have done with some of our other customers. And I'm hoping to definitely get onto your diary to do some of those things that you are talking about. One of the very interesting use cases that we did, as you have operations in multiple countries, one of our clients had a need of one agent being able to support customers from multiple countries. So like somebody speaking in German, getting supported by an English-speaking agent. So the entire process of literally translating on the fly what is being spoken in German to an English language, and the English language customer service agent answering that query and then getting that pushed out in German. That was pretty slick and cool, which I think would be a very good use case and a big upsell for Kore, I think.
Yeah, no, I think I'm very looking forward. There's so much ample opportunity. Right. It's exciting. I think the big focus is also going to be how do we start adopting some of these things, right, and making it part of our day-to-day lives.
So taking a little bit of a sober shift, so very exciting. Lots of opportunities, lots of use cases, but observability, testability, governance, these are words that keep, compliance folks on their edge, right? And Gartner talked about it as well. What has been your experience in doing some of that?
Yeah, I think keeping all the relevant parties in the loop is very critical, especially when this overall area is evolving by the hour. You heard about some local regulations that are coming up with privacy laws or AI-specific laws that are coming up. And as I mentioned, we are there in 48 countries, our employees. So it's not just about looking at the models with our filters that we call. We have an ethics filter, we have our culture values, data, privacy, and then the core profiles of all individual users should also be taken into consideration. Now, all the regional filters are also need to be put in before a response goes back to the user. So I think that governance structure is also very critical, especially when you're experimenting at this scale. Right. And so having the right folks, And so we have folks from different regions, and we also have folks like the legal partners from each of the business divisions who are also participating based on when the use case gets submitted. If it is coming from, as an example, marketing, the marketing legal advisor actually reviews it and gives feedback, rather than my legal advisor actually suggesting whether we should do it or not, because they are the domain experts. So really bringing the group along is a very important. We also don't want to create a bottleneck of 10 people who will decide for the entire company what happens. That cannot scale. And so that's the approach we have taken. And there is also a lot of use cases that we experimented and we said, we're not going to scale this. Like, we won't scale this because it was not meeting some of our ethics or standards or whatnot, like HR use cases. I was not surprised when Arun showed where HR and legal were at 2% in his graph, because I think that is where I think human in the loop still makes a lot of sense, because we don't want machine to start making judgments without having the full context of things.
So I think you saw Raj's presentation, and he talked about announcement of Gale and the platform, right? Around the tooling, around the governance, around the out-of-the-box, LLMs fine-tuned for specific tasks. And then, in a way, I was kind of chuckling almost when when Gartner was talking about what looks like good and what looks like good practices. And I'm not making a spiel for what Kore is doing, but looked like a high degree of resonance between the two. And you already kind of started working on a bunch of use cases. From your perspective, having a system where a bunch of people are doing this development and definitely bringing business value, and compare that with, like, as you sort of now sit back and understand that, hey, I need to kind of bring some degree of standardization around it, some degree of tooling around it, some degree of predictability around it, some degree of governance around it, some degree of reuse around it. Do some of those things resonate to you in terms of a platform for building these capabilities?
Yeah, it does. And it is also, we're talking about one partner here, which is Kore. And imagine for an enterprise like ours, when we have so many others we are working with. We are working with AWS, we're working with Microsoft, OpenAI, we are working with Salesforce of the world. So for me, there are certain aspects. I think someone mentioned, I think Raj, mentioned the verticals, the domain-specific LLMs that are coming. For me, how do we tap into the best across, but at the same time, I don't want to replace 10 human beings with 10 chatbots. That is my worst fear that I have. I don't want this to, like, okay, now if I'm working on this project or in this particular area, I need to chat here, which means it will go to this engine. Like, that will actually become even more complex. All of our enterprises are even, like, very complicated, integrated enterprises. And now imagine if we start creating similar AI platforms, because everybody is becoming an AI company now, as you can imagine and as you can see. But this is where I think having a structure and governance on whom you want to bring together, who can also work with each other, so that it gives a seamless experience for end users.
Right.
For me, it's all about end user experience ultimately. Naturally, behind the scene, you need to have that structure and platform approach for us to scale. I think this year will be that focus.
Awesome. So somebody like an orchestrator of agents.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, like GPT for enterprise, which is calling GPT agents from multiple domains.
100%.
Or EVA, as Raj talked about.
Yeah, and see, one of the reasons why we came to Kore for our, even the chat functionality, conversational AI itself was for that. We were working with a prior company, a startup, which was only focused on IT specific. They were very, very useful for IT specific domain. But then we quickly, everybody in the company started asking, okay, whatever responses we are getting for the conversational AI within IT, we want now to expand to procurement, we want for HR, we want for travel, like all this legal thing. Then that company was not set up to scale across. And that was one of the reasons why we came to Kore, because we felt like this platform approach can now be leveraged behind the scenes to really tap into all the divisions.
Right. So I think, well said. So things like small language, have you started playing with that, like smaller language models? And, you mentioned about domain-based LLMs, but I would think that would be a really good area.
That would be huge
area for you to look at, right? So one of the things which was very interesting, and we have been doing some experimentation on this, is this whole idea of autonomous agents, right? So you are an AutoCAD. Is there an AutoCAD in the works?
Yeah, no, we launched in our last conference, Autodesk AI is something we launched. And what we are talking to our customers is more on generative design and AI. And unlike the stuff that we talk about, all of our customers have heavy, intense design files. And those are really also super confidential. That's their IP actually. How they design a plan for a building or whatever biggest statue they're building or a bridge that they're doing. How do we bring intelligence on top of all of their projects and with some publicly available data so that we can start giving them permutations, permutations so that they can really design something much faster with less wastage in a sustainable way is a huge focus. That's what our customers are actually coming to us. You have a lot of this data, or we are going to give you access to our design files. How do you leverage AI and the power of AI to really come back with recommendations so that one, we can be efficient, we can reduce wastage, and we can actually give back to the vision of what we say better world. How can we design a better world so that it is more sustainable? So that's why we are also excited. Awesome. It's not about generating value to our customers, and which means more growth to us, but it is also designing something that will be better for all of us in the planet.
Awesome. I saw that in your website, design geared towards sustainability, and kudos to you, bringing us to a less carbon world and things like that. One question for you, as you sort of do all of these initiatives across the enterprise, talent, right? It's, I mean, everybody struggles with, like, there's so much demand for talent. How are you upskilling your teams in terms of being able to do all these wonderful use cases that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think, probably I'm fortunate to have a good leadership team and a lot of great talent because of exciting work we are doing. We also have 4 of the talented people here from my team as well that are attending the conference. So it's awesome to see. See, I think we are very particular when we started off. I think in any evolution between process, technology, and people, there is a clear path we call learning paths. So we created for practitioners one who wants to lean in, learn quickly, and contribute, one who wants to lean in and consume and be that first set of users or champions that can start using. So we created something called learning paths where employees can learn on demand. These are quick 10 different minutes videos where they can learn what is going on, how to up-level themselves or upskill themselves so that they are completely caught up. And we continuously push those kind of training material. So that curriculum is very important. You need to have that, we call it AI literacy, and we keep updating it, and we have something for executives too, because we want all of our leaders to be up to speed on what's going on. Because this is changing, as I said, it's truly changing by the hour.
Yep.
So whatever content we created yesterday may not be relevant today. So how do we keep up, and also sharing stories. When employees lean in and start contributing or learning and then bringing impact, we share those stories to the broader population. Now everybody wants to be highlighted for such stories. So they all start leaning in. So training and learning is a big part of our culture, from our values, like continuous learning, and employees take advantage of it.
That is so nice to hear. You obviously have so many good practices that are keeping employees highly motivated, making them do good things, hopefully on our platform as we do more and more. You are doing stuff which is visionary, forward-looking. You are building a sustainable planet. You are incredibly successful, and you are our customer. So on that note, I thank you very much for our session today.
Thank you.
And look forward to continuing to engage with you in a lot of very, very nice projects and initiatives.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.